Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. I guess, Rashi, you can take roll call by those present on the screen and by phone.
Yes. Ms. Cobo?
Here.
Ms. McDevitt?
Here.
Mr. Each?
Here.
Mr. Charles?
Here.
Mr. McDermott?
Here.
Ms. Bronson Marcellus? Here. Mr. Clark?
Here.
Mr. Sanchez was not able to attend, and our new member, Ms. Brenda Alfaro, did confirm, so she should be joining us shortly, but we do have quorum, sir.
Okay. All right. Even though we don't have, we are not in person, I still think we should open the meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance. So if we can learn, I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good job, Mike.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, Ms. Brenda Alfaro is here. Her mic is off, though. Ms. Alfaro, if you can turn on your mic.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi,
All right.
Brenda.
Hello.
Okay. Can we begin with agenda item number 1?
Well, Mr. Chair, we've changed the format of the agenda now, so now we have a consent agenda section, just like Mayor and Council. So I'm going to read a statement. Right now, it only has the approval of the minutes, but moving forward, this is because since we now have an hour of meetings and we have a lot to discuss, all the smaller items, anything that's under $90,000 in expense would be in the consent agenda. So I'm going to read this statement, and then you can vote. Unless a member of the CRA Advisory Committee wishes to remove a specific item from this portion of the agenda, tabs A, constitute the consent agenda. These resolutions and items are self-explanatory and are not expected to require additional review or discussion. These items will be recorded as individually numbered resolutions adopted unanimously by the following motion: that the consent agenda comprised of tab A. So now if you can make a motion for the minutes.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. All right. If Kenny moves and Blanca seconded, is there any further discussion on the items? Okay. Being none, can we have a vote, please?
I have a motion made by Mr. Each, seconded by Ms. Cobo, and it was passed unanimously.
Okay.
Next item. All right. Recommendation to approve the selection of TD Bank to provide banking services for the North Miami Community Redevelopment Agency. I have Mr. Alberto Destrade, the Purchasing Director, who will do a brief presentation on this matter.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, committee members. Just for the record, Alberto Estrade, I'm the Purchasing Director for the City of North Miami. The item that you have before you under agenda item number 1 is the results of a solicitation that was issued on behalf of the CRA by my office. The solicitation was issued in August 24, 2020. It was titled RFP number 531920, and it was seeking proposals for banking services for the North Miami CRA. On response to this particular solicitation, and by the way, this is all included in the memo that was provided to the committee, which is essentially summarizing pretty much what transpired in leading up to this recommendation. So in response to the solicitation, we received the 3 proposals that were submitted. These proposals were initially vetted by my office to make sure that they met the minimum qualifications and they were responsive to the solicitation. Once that was determined, the proposals were then forwarded to an evaluation committee And the results of the evaluation committee are right there. They're listed in the memo. You can see what the final scores were for each one of the applicants. There were 3 proposals that were submitted. The top ranked firm was TD Bank. The second ranked firm was a bank by the name of Synovus Bank. And in the third position was Valley Bank. So essentially what this is doing is submitting to this committee the results of the evaluation committee and asking for your recommendation to the CRA board so that we can move this forward. And essentially what that would do is to authorize the executive director to finalize and enter into an agreement with TD Bank to provide banking services to the CRA. That concludes my presentation, but if you have any questions at all, I'll be glad to take them. And by the way, I believe that there are also representatives from TD Bank that are online waiting to also take any questions that you may have.
Were those the only 3 banks that you requested information from?
No, we put out a solicitation, and the solicitation is open to anyone, to everyone and anyone that wishes to apply. Obviously, that you have to qualify. For some reason, those were the only 3 responses that we received, the 3 banks that you have there. Any other questions?
Mr. Chair?
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
I second.
Seconded.
Okay, any further discussion on the item? Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much, committee members. Thank you.
Okay, Rasha, the next item?
The next item is the presentation from our auditing firm. Claude, if you could bring up the PowerPoint presentation. And Mr. Harvey and Mr. Scott, you can unmute yourselves and turn on your mics. There you go. As you all know, every year we go through an independent audit to make sure that the agency is being run shipshape as per code, financials, the state, and so on and so forth. So Mr. Harvey and his team will be doing a brief presentation as to this finding, the audit. I'm sorry.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ms. Rush, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I am going to start. My name is Kemar Scott. I'm the senior auditor on the project. I am going to start off the presentation, and then I'm going to pass it over to my manager, Mr. Thomas, and then Mr. Thomas will pass it over to Mr. Harvey for completion. Could you skip to page number 2?
Next slide, Claude.
Next slide, please. To the Audit Committee of North Miami, we are pleased to have the opportunity to meet with you today to discuss the result of our audit on the consolidated financial statement of the North Miami as of and for the year ended September 30, 2020. Our audit was conducted in accordance with the terms established in Audit Engagement Letter dated October 19, 2020. We are providing this document in advance of our meeting to enable you to consider our findings, hence enhance the quality of our discussion. We will be pleased to elaborate on the matters covered in this document when we meet. Our audit is complete and we issued an unmodified or clean opinion on the North Miami CRA financial statement dated January 20, 2021. Next slide. Audit result require communication and other matters summary. Supplementary slide support required communication and other matters or responsibilities. Next slide, please. Scope of our audit. Our audit of the consolidated financial statement of North Miami as of and for the years ended 30th of September 2020 was performed in accordance with the audited standard generally in the United States of America and the standards applicable to financial audits contained in the government audit standard issued by the Comptroller General of the United States. Changes to our plan risk assessment and plan audit strategy. There were no changes to our audit plan risk assessment and plan audit strategies. Audit report issued. We have issued an unmodified opinion on the financial statement of North Miami CRA and other reports as follows. For independent auditors report, complete independent auditors report on internal control over financial reporting and on compliance and other matters based on an audit of financial statement performed in accordance with the government auditing standards. Complete. Management letter in accordance with the rules of the Auditor General of the State of Florida. Complete. Other matters, none noted. Next slide, please. Significant accounting estimates. Significant accounting estimates are allowance of doubtful accounts, depreciation of fixed asset over the useful life. Significant risk and other significant audit matters related to management override of control, relevant for all entities, revenue recognition, relevant for all entities. New accounting pronunciation, non-applicable for the 2020 audit. I will now pass over the presentation to Mr. Thomas, our audit manager.
Good afternoon, everybody. On this slide, just want to point out that we did not find any misstatements that were either corrected or uncorrected, as well as there were no disclosure or financial presentation matters that were omitted from the report. Next slide, please. We're pleased to say that there are no control deficiencies that we found throughout our audit. We looked at related parties. We did not find any material issues there. And this last statement just says that our letters are our property, and if you're going to use the financial statements, that we have a right to look over, but we do not have to provide any assurance based on any say you're going out for a bond or something. If you're going to use our statements, we have the right to look at them, but that's the extent of our reports. Next slide, please. Just going to highlight a couple of the things here. During our testing, we didn't know any illegal acts or fraud. Subsequent events, just talked a little bit about the COVID, and there were no disagreements for management, just nothing noted irregularities throughout the audit. Next slide, please. And it is of our professional opinion that we are independent to the North Miami CRA as defined by professional standards. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the partner, Mr. Roderick Harvey. Next slide, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully everybody's day is off to a good start. My name is Roderick Harvey, partner with HCT. If we can go ahead and advance to the next slide, I want to go over the next few minutes of kind of an outline. We will talk about financial reporting, expense, revenue, and capital assets. So if we advance to the next slide, the financial reporting model, our approach is to gain an understanding of the financial reporting process. We inspect the financial statements and according to GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles. And then we also look at disclosures to make sure that those disclosures were set forth in accordance with GAS. Let's go back and look at expenses for the year. Remember, again, this is September 30, 2020. Expenses for that period, $5.1 million, as compared to the same period for 2019, and expenditures was $5 million. We tested a sample of significant expenditure items. We tested those items for completeness, accuracy, and the presentation of those expenses. We also tested for compliance with Florida Statute 163.387. Next slide, please. Want to talk about the revenues of the organization. Again, as of September 30, 2020, revenues totaled out at $5.4 million as compared to $4 million for the 2019 period. For revenue, we tested a sample of significant items. We tested those revenues for existence, accuracy, and presentation. Capital assets, the balance at 9/30/20, $165,000 as compared to the same period in 19, $133. The increase is a result of motor vehicles and office equipment purchased. Want to give you a little landscape of our responsibility. Next slide, please. HCT, as your external auditors, our responsibility includes to issue an opinion on a financial statement, to consider the internal controls environment, although we don't issue an opinion on the internal controls environment. If anything that's significant comes to our attention, we will write those deficiencies in basically 3 areas: a material weakness, significant deficiency, and report those to you as needed, as required. Next slide, please. This following slide gives the technical definition, next slide, please, of the levels of deficiency, whether it's a significant deficiency, a regular deficiency, a significant deficiency, or a material weakness. Moving forward to this slide and the next couple slides, we'll talk about the responsibilities of the different folks that make up this tripod. Management is responsible for the fair presentation and adjusting the financial statements. Management is also responsible for the design, implementation, and maintenance of the control environment. And then also management is responsible to provide access to the auditors, to give us unrestricted access to personnel, and then also to make sure our confirmation and letters are sent and received, and to acknowledge the design, implementation, and maintenance of the control environment to prevent and detect fraud. The audit committee is oversight of the financial reporting process and oversight and establishment to maintain programs and controls to, again, detect, deter a fraud. Next slide, please. Our responsibility to express an opinion on the financial statements, to perform the audit in accordance with GAAS. Again, oversight from the audit committee in those financial statements, and then to present, our responsibility to present the financial statements. The next slide, please. This slide is a laundry list of things that we do. I do not read it all, but you can see that there's various things that we do. One of which I do like to highlight is to communicate if we suspect or identify any non-compliance with laws and regulations. Our goal is to, again, communicate with the audit committee as needed and as necessary. Next slide, please.
Next slide, please.
At this time, if the chair will allow, we will entertain any questions from the North Miami CRA Advisory Committee. Again, we thank you for the opportunity to serve. It's so good to see so many of your faces, although it is virtually, but we will do our very best to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you very much, Robert. Does anyone have any questions of the audit report? Okay, there being none, can I have a motion to approve the audit report?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries unanimously. Okay, thank you very much, audit team. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Thank
Rasha?
you. Have a good day.
Yes.
Okay, next
Next
item.
item is the CRA attorney report. Mr. Zelkowitz, are you on?
No, yeah, I am. No report. Thank
Actually, you do have a report. You have moved. Mr. Zelkowitz
Oh,
is no
is that the report? Yes, if that's the report, I can make the report. So, yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and committee members, and thank you, Rasha, for reminding me. I have changed law firms. I've left Fox Rothschild. I have joined a small boutique firm of which I am an owner. It's known as Spiritus Law. We engage in a lot of governmental regulatory work, representing both public and private clients. I am partners with two individuals, a married couple who I've known for 15 years. And as friends, colleagues, and partners, we decided to create our own firm and better serve our clients. I have already engaged an associate to assist with the North Miami matters, as has been requested by Rasha probably over the last 2 years, and a request which my former firm denied me from hiring someone. So at this point, I'm with a small group who I have decision-making control. So we're better able to serve the CRA and our other clients. And thank you very much, Rasha. That's my report. And I'm very, very happy to advise you all that the CRA board has approved the engagement letter with my new law firm.
Okay.
Same terms and conditions as the prior firm. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Steve. So you're going to be there with Maribel, huh? And Mr. Bussi?
Maribel.
Mr. Bussi?
I'm not surprised you came over. Oh, we're back.
Yeah. Well,
No,
so, okay. Well, congratulations, Steve.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
Yeah, congratulations. Okay, Rasha, next.
Yes, I'm going to give you a kind of a synopsis of, this past fiscal year, since we haven't been able to meet in a while, and also to introduce our new members to our old members. Ms. Alfaro, thank you so much for coming. This is her first meeting. Mr. Clark as well. Mr. Charles, thank you so much for coming. We have some brand new faces and minds with the committee. So thank you so much. I apologize. I just made some minor notes and I got to update. So because of COVID-19, a lot of our meetings and our processes, we have to change and help the community in a different manner. So just to give you an update, from last year to this fiscal year, we spent about $1.6 million in rental relief, providing 2 months rent to North Miami CRA residents that were in need of assistance that were negatively affected by COVID. We spent about $650,000 in helping small businesses stay open to serve the public. Most recently, the city had received some some CARES Act money, and they had to spend them by December 31st. But as we all expected, they received way more applications than they could process. So the CRA stepped in and helped a few of them. So at the last minute during the Christmas break, we helped an additional 19 businesses with $5,000 Jumpstart grants to help the city with, the demand that they had. At this past meeting, the CRA board unanimously approved my request to hire both chambers of commerce, the Greater North Miami Chamber of Commerce and the Haitian American Chamber of Commerce, as our COVID relief managers, grant managers moving forward. One thing that we learned, my staff and I, with social distancing and dealing with the public in general, it was a insurmountable task that we did accomplish. However, it kept us from doing our other projects, our other demands, such as the regular commercial grants, the other large-scale projects that we're supposed to be focusing on. So the board agreed that it would make sense for us to contract with those two chambers So the Greater North Miami Chamber is going to have a Spanish and English speaking person. The Haitian American Chamber of Commerce is going to have a Creole speaking person with computer, they're computer literate, internet, printer, scanner. And once we release our next round of COVID relief grants, so hopefully in March, they will be going, the applicants will be going to the chambers to apply and to get their applications processed. And we would just get a list of the applicants that were processed and approved so we can cut the checks. So that's going to help us a lot over here at the office so we can continue with our other regular operations. I think it's a great opportunity because it also helps both chambers connect face-to-face with the businesses in the community and also some of the residents. We're still going to do the Jumpstart Grant, which is $5,000 for businesses. And we're looking at an eviction prevention, foreclosure prevention grant program for those that are within the CRA that, have a need still of assistance. So that's one of the things that they just approved. Another thing that they approved, which was great, was the license plate readers. I think I had mentioned it to a few of you. We had problems with our previous contractor. Not only did they not perform as they should have, but also the company was bought by a different company and they did not provide the items as required. So we went with the second runner-up, Miller Electric. They're going to be installing the cameras. The chief of police is very happy and the staff at the police department is very happy about that. One of our largest grants that we've given so far is to 1155 NOMI. It's for 384 units of workforce housing. It's a mixed-use project right by west of W.J. Bryant School. It's on 127th Street and Northeast 12th Avenue. The applicant requested for some infrastructure grant and also tax refund. As you know, our grant guidelines allow for that. So this grant, the total cost of the project was $86 million. We're funding $8 million in infrastructure grant and up to $7 million in tax refund. So it'll be a contribution of $15 million. For that, not only do we get 384 units of workforce housing, but 10% of that, 38 units, are strictly affordable housing, and they're designated for the CRA to place North Miami residents into. So it's either the CRA or we can assign it to, let's say, the city's housing department or whoever, but it will be our responsibility to make sure that the qualified affordable housing applicants, primarily city and North Miami residents, have access to those units when they're done. Okay. And lastly, I know, it's been such a long time. I don't remember where or what last conversation we had. We've been having workshops on the P3 redevelopment of the downtown. I don't know if I've given you an update since, but we did do the public workshops. We've been working on preparing the RFP to put out. We're waiting on the city of North Miami now because they're doing their due diligence on their end. As you know, the city of North Miami owns the land. The CRA owns the money. And so before we put it out to bid, we need to have some clarity as to, what is it that the city would like and, what would be the mechanism for this deal to happen before we put it out. In the meantime, after all these workshops, I and Kevin Crowder, our P3 consultant, we've been meeting with several developers from all over South Florida, asking questions, requesting meetings, and just to get a better understanding of what it is that we're trying to do and what it is that would be interesting for them. So I'm very encouraged by all these meetings and all these requests. At this point, I'm just waiting on, like I said, by this week, the city of North Miami, the city manager will have some idea of, what makes sense. And so then we will, negotiate how we're going to do the land deal and then move forward with the RFP. I know I spoke fast, but are there any questions?
Rasha,
Yes.
with regards to the workforce housing, is that on 127th Street between 12th and?
Yep.
Okay,
Now, the barracks.
Are those buildings going to come down? Or are they going to put new buildings up?
They're going to demolish them. It's supposed to be an 8-story building.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
8-story building. So yes, they're going to demolish.
Oh, okay, so they are coming down. Okay, good. Yeah, they're 70, 80 years old or whatever.
And some of them caught fire, and they're
Yeah, that was last year. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Okay, so they are coming down, and we're going to put new ones up. Good. That's a nice spot for it, too.
I have a question regarding.
They were located.
Say that again, Blanca.
Where did you say the buildings are located?
On Northeast 12th Avenue and 127th Street, west of W.J. Bryant, the school.
Okay.
It would be north of W.J. Bryant.
Oh, north? Yeah. North. Sarah, you had a question, Ms. McDevitt?
Yeah, first I just was going to say for everybody else on the panel, there is a website with more details on their plan if you want to see it. And if you want, Rasha, do you remember the website? I think it's
probably 1155 Nomi.
I think it is, yeah. But the thing I was going to ask you, how many units exactly? It was 86 are going for the CRA?
No, it's 10%. So it's 384 total workforce housing, but out of that, 38 units are strictly affordable housing for low-income residents.
Okay.
It could be a nice facility there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, when are you projecting to complete that project? What's the
Well, it is not us. Let me be clear. It's a developer that got a grant. They're required to complete their site plan approval process within a year and get all the building permits done within a year so that they can still be in compliance for the grant. The developer himself, he's in the process right now with planning and zoning to go through the process to go to the planning, the adjustment board or the planning and zoning board for review and approval of their plan and their design. Our funds, by the way, come in last, right? Again, we have taxpayer dollars, so it's not like a blank check that we cut to the developer. They need to meet certain benchmarks. It's for specific items, especially as it relates to infrastructure. So once they start the work and they start the demolition and they're starting all the undergrounding to prepare the site for the development is when they would submit their first reimbursement. The last reimbursement is not done until they've received their final certificate of occupancy and they've passed all the inspections by the building department.
Got it.
I found the website, by the way. It's nomivillage.com.
Okay, nomivillage.com. That was the original name of the project, and then they changed it to 1155 Nomi.
Yeah, it says 1155 once you get into the site, but the website, it's still, they must have set up the website with the old name.
Yeah. Any other questions?
As far as the land, you mentioned that you still don't have the structure because North Miami owns the land for the redevelopment program, redevelopment of downtown. Mm-hmm. The buildings in that workforce housing, those buildings were not owned by North Miami, or were they owned by a private? They were owned by a private.
Yeah, that's private property. The properties that we're talking about for the P3 is the super block where the city hall is, all the trailers, trailer in my offices, the police stations, all the parking lots surrounding the city hall. Those are the properties that we're talking about for the redevelopment.
Are you going to have, when you do the RFP, are you going to look for local investors from, let's say, North Miami? Would you give preference to them, or it doesn't really matter?
Well, that's up to the procurement director. I know they do have a local preference aspect of the bidding process, but that's really up to the selection committee and how it's determined. It'll be determined by experience. I mean, at the end of the day, we're estimating it's going to be like at least $100 million project.
Right.
Based on our math so far, we're looking at a new city hall, maybe a new police station, and about 700 units of rental apartments, not including retail, restaurants, and so on and so forth. So whoever it is that is awarded will have to show experience, financing ability, and so on and so forth, and most definitely be able to hire local, whether it's contractors, whether it's employees, that is part of their responsibility.
Right. Would you have preference also for minority-owned businesses?
It's all in there. Those are all the requirements. If you're getting a grant from the CRA above $200,000, you're required to have all those items.
Thanks.
Rasha, With the workshop, with the feedback you guys got on the workshops, do you consolidate that and present that to the CRA board in some format, or how does that work?
We will when we get to that point. Like I said, since we're still in discussion with the city, I don't have anything else to present to you. But I can do that for the next meeting in March. I can have Kevin Crowder do it. I mean, we're using, like, for instance, a very important comment is no more dollar stores in our downtown. But they're asking for a lot of entertainment, a lot of restaurants, more pedestrian-friendly sidewalks and roadways and things like that. So we are taking that into account, and we'll do the presentation. So I can have that on the agenda in March if the board is okay with that.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be nice, Rasha. We'd appreciate that.
Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Clark, Mr. Charles?
Okay, Rasha.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
Rasha, do you have anything else for us?
Yeah, I have a public comment that was emailed to the city clerk's office. I have to read it for the record.
Okay.
Dear CRA Advisory Board members, we live in single-family homes on Northeast 127th Street and the neighboring area adjacent to the proposed 1155 NOMI project. Many of us lived here for a long time and raised our families here. We all share the same broad concerns regarding this project, and we have already notified the CRA board and the city planner of our concerns. 1, the CRA was approved based on the CRA was approved based on a maximum of 384 rental apartments with a maximum height of 8 stories. We're all concerned that this would be too many apartments, creating too much traffic and without enough on-site parking. We have spoken to Mr. Semla, who knows that the building standards require at least 1.5 parking spaces for each apartment plus visitors. The 384 apartments would require parking spaces for 615 vehicles, plus extra parking for any commercial tenants. The developer's current proposal assumes a 15% reduction in parking spaces for green building features and the mobility hub. But native plants and electric car plug-ins will not reduce the number of parking spaces the residents need. We all hope for better public transportation in the future, but for now, we nearly all need a private car to live in North Miami. Mr. Semla suggested that the parking lots behind the office buildings on Northeast 125th Street could serve as overflow parking, but they are private property, so that would be illegal. The final plan for this project must include ample on-site parking with no reduction based on loopholes that will not reduce the actual number of cars. Parking must not be allowed to overflow into the surrounding neighborhood. So there must be either more parking or a smaller number of apartments, or very possibly both. 2, the developer's current proposal shows only 1 vehicle entrance to a parking garage on Northeast 126th Street and 2 vehicle entrances on Northeast 127th Street, where hundreds of cars and delivery vehicles coming and going would be a nightmare for all of us who live there and a danger to cyclists in the proposed bike lane on Northeast 127th Street. Vehicle entrances should be on Northeast 126th Street or 11th or 12th Avenue, where there are no single-family homes. We hope that any high-rise 7 or 8-story portion of this project will be limited to the south side of the property, and that the north side of the project closer to 127th Street will be lower. To blend in with our low-rise single-family neighborhood, an alternative proposal that could address many of our concerns and maybe even solve the developer's thorny parking problem would be to replace the current proposal for a single massive U-shaped 8-story structure with a 7 or 8-story building on Northeast 126th Street, a 2 to 3-story garden apartment building on Northeast 127th Street, and a parking garage, surface parking, and recreational areas between the 2 buildings. We have told Mr. Semla that I apologize, hold on one second. My camera there we go. I apologize. My camera just went silent there for a second. We have told Mr. Semla that we look forward to working with him as he and his partners develop their plans, and we are counting on the CRA board, the CRA advisory board, the city council, the development review committee, the planning commission, and the planning division to ensure that our concerns are addressed and that this project will be an asset to our neighborhood and our city. Thank you. Please read our name and addresses. Nicholas and Deborah Davies, 1165 Northeast 127th Street. Yolene Saint-Fort, 1185 Northeast 127th Street. Jacqueline Wells, 12700 Northeast 12th Avenue. Pamela and Gustavo Rodriguez, 12739 Northeast 127th Street. Saeed and Benita Daruch, 1105 Northeast 127th Street. Joseus Said, 12755 Northeast 11th Court. G1 Banas Dunn, 1040 Northeast 127th Street. E. Colson and Taylor Miller, 921 Northeast 127th Street. Jennifer and Christopher Zangrilli, 875 Northeast 127th Street. Nicole Salvaggio, Rockabye Baby, 1125 Northeast 125th Street. Business address, home address, 1503 Northeast 127th Street. Victoria and 1 Garantiva, 1155 Northeast 128th Street. Christina Buza Finca Morada, 1050 Northeast 131st Street. John and Marilyn Chisholm, 850 Northeast 123rd Street. And Ileana Alvaran, 849 Northeast 121st Street. So this was the only item for public comment. And I just want to mention that, we are just a financing entity. All this has to go through the Planning and Zoning Department, and that's where all these items will be deliberated. And our agreement, the grant, is contingent on them passing all the approved site plan approval, building permit, and so on and so forth. So they will be reviewed at that point, and all the changes or the recommendations that the community makes will be reviewed on the city's planning and zoning side. Our responsibility as the CRA is to provide the funding, and it's contingent on the successful completion of this project.
What would be the schedule for some of that zoning review?
I don't know. I forwarded this letter to Debbie Love and Tanya Wilson from the city's CP&D department, and they're the ones that will deal with that. Traditionally, and I think Mr. Ichinon is on some of these boards, traditionally these are advertised meetings, right? And there'll be a notice out for times for people to, make comments and opinions known. I'm just saying that because I am going to email them on that. Definitely they need to pay attention on the city side. The CRA board has no influence whatsoever on zoning and planning because that's outside of our purview.
No, I was just curious because I know that like Sebastian's agenda has moved this project forward pretty quickly, and it's an exciting project for the city. But I just wonder, like, what does all of that look like? What do those steps look like theoretically? How soon are we, the CRA, going to be spending that money, and when?
So, like I said, he has a year to get his site plan approval, but Mr. Each, correct me if I'm wrong, he has to get a CU, something, he has to reserve the units, that's one. Then he has to get the site plan approved.
Well, it has to come before the planning commission, and public hearings would be heard, so forth and so on. Sometimes it goes back for modification. Then the site review board, development review board would have to look at it. And believe me, those questions and those suggestions that the neighborhood has put forward, they will definitely be heard and taken into consideration. What we're faced with in the city is traditionally years ago in the 80s, they passed an ordinance when I was in the police department that you couldn't build anything higher than 4 stories. And the idea was, the comment was, we're going to make this a bedroom community. Well, we did. We had the homeless sleeping under I-95. It was a bedroom community. We killed development for all practical purposes. Now what we're looking at is a whole change in philosophy, because you need development to advance your city. You need a tax base. And that's one of the things that the CRA is here to do. We want to give people a decent place to live at affordable rates, but also we want to encourage development. So this will definitely come forward before the planning commission, and it will be reviewed. Believe me, the people will have their voices heard.
And it goes to the city council, then they go through the permitting process.
Right.
And like I said before in the agreement, none of this, our cash is not made available until after they've passed all those and they've started spending the money for, the infrastructure aspect of it. Hold on one second. IT says that there's a question. Claude, do you have the question?
It's the question in the chat, but I can read it out to you if you like.
Sure.
It is from Kelvin Pinero. The first question says, I am presently looking to improve 12190 Northwest 7th Avenue. Will I be able to get on the agenda scheduled for March? And the follow-up to that is I have county approval for the improvements to be done, and I have a short window to start working.
I've already spoken to Mr. Panero several times before. His application is not ready to be reviewed by the board. So I doubt it'll be in the March agenda. So.
Okay. All right, Rasha, is that the end of your report?
Yes, unless the board has any questions, comments.
Comments,
Okay,
Rasha,
good.
you're doing an outstanding job. Thank you for
Thank
being
you
there
so
and doing the
much.
job you're doing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I can concur. I think that the audit report just reflects Rasha's good work and the team's good work.
Good.
I think that's just, that audit report was just reflective of what a good job you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll second that as well.
Okay.
I think from
Is
myself and Mike.
Kenny?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. You wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, welcome to the new members of the board. We've been on this for several years, Blanca and Mike and myself, and we've gone through many changes, but we're in good hands with Rasha and her staff. They saved us CRA, and we're going forward and where we should be, and we're very fortunate to have this staff right now. Thank you.
Yeah, yes, we are.
I agree, 100%.
So, yeah. So, Rasha, I think you pretty much got a standing ovation and approval of your work.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So we will see you in March for the next meeting.
Okay. Is there any old business to come before us?
Not for me.
Any new business from anyone? Okay. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? Okay. See you all in March.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.